Cities consume everything around them, and in the end they consume themselves. And that's how cities are fundamentally unsustainable concepts. Our ecological footprints show us that we are taking much more than it's ours to take. These environments are where people belong. Yesterday we spent a day in the city in Ubud, which is the cultural and spiritual capital of Bali, which is always nice. But in the end, I come back in the evening to our home here, in our beautiful nature home in the center of the island, and I'm like, always, why did I even leave? Why did I went to the city? Yeah, sure. You can meet other people, there are nice restaurants, we've been to the sauna. But after a morning like this here in the waterfall, in the natural, just connecting to the natural beauty and to the simplicity, this feeling inside myself gets strengthened that these environments are where people belong. Even though most people dwell in cities and this trend is accelerating faster and faster. Now over 50% of the world's population is living in cities, with, in a couple of decades, 70% are being projected. And I sense that I'm not a city dweller. This chapter is over. I did that. I lived in Berlin, in Sydney, in Barcelona, which was a nice chapter in my life. But now I just want a waterfall, a river, a forest, the beautiful Balinese jungle, my fruit trees, and a bunch of beautiful human beings around, and I'm happy. And that on a much deeper level than all the consumption that awaits me in the city. Friends, did you know that many of the greatest past civilizations that inhabited this planet, when archaeologists find like the ruins of past cities, they are often located in deserts, even though this was not the case when they started building their empires. And this is the case because cities consume everything around them, and in the end they consume themselves. A city is dependent on the extraction of resources from beyond its boundaries, because a city is so densely populated it cannot sustain itself. It's fundamentally impossible. You cannot, on such a small piece of land, you cannot sustain like millions of people. It's not possible. A city is dependent on receiving a constant inflow from its surrounding. And that's how cities are fundamentally unsustainable concepts, because they lead to the desertification of past beautiful, fertile, lush pieces of land. Deeply ingrained in the DNA of the city is the exploitive behavior. And this too becomes really obvious when we look at how people are living in cities. It's so much easier to be an asshole and to don't care about other people, don't care about our natural environment if we are living in a city, because we are not in contact with the immediate consequences of our actions. If we just screw over people, if we take advantage of them, we will probably never meet them again. Compare that to living in a small interconnected community village where the people you meet today are the people you meet tomorrow and next week and next month and next year and next decade. There's no hiding. Like every bad character trait arises to the surface and you are asked to work on that. You cannot exploit other people because these are the people your well-being depends upon. But if you're surrounded by millions of strangers that you will probably never meet again, then being a jerk is so much easier. And the same is true for our connection with the biosphere. If we live lives connected to like beautiful forests like here, and we through our consumption perpetuate the destructive effect of toxic waste, like with toxic waste just get dumped into a river, this is not something you can maintain if this is the river your children play in every day. But if you're living in a city and all the trash gets exported to some kind of landfill like far away, you are not in contact with the harmful effects of your consumptive lifestyles. And this is how most people think of themselves as reasonable, well-meaning human being, but our ecological footprints show us that we are taking much more than it's ours to take. But we are not faced with these consequences because of how a city is designed. Important reason why we are invited to gravitate from city dwelling to small interlinked community villages that are in tune with the biosphere is that, and we need to look at it through the lens of consciousness, really taking a meta perspective. At the core of the whole mess that we are living in, that we're calling the meta crisis, the convergence of crises in our lifetimes, like so many different developments that are all enhancing each other, like species extinction and biodiversity loss and our broken economic system and our broken education system and people getting more and more unhealthy and the addiction of social media and like all the dynamics that we are perceiving that are multiplying each other. At the core of all that is humanity's fragmented consciousness. We as a species became very, very good at narrow goal achieving, optimizing for a single metric, building a business that earns as much revenue as possible, losing as much weight as possible, building muscles, paying as little as possible for our clothes, and making a bargain, and for 50 bucks carrying all like bags full of clothes home. This skill, narrow goal achieving, is what we can call intelligence. Intelligence is a hallmark of Homo sapiens. Intelligence is like, okay, there's one problem, I need to think of one solution, ignore everything else, and just solve this one problem. This is what intelligence is about. And since we became so good at that, we developed such an enormous capability to solve problems. But what humanity became not very good at is wisdom. And wisdom, in opposite to intelligence, is not narrow-focused goal-achieving, but is really broad-focused systemic thinking and selecting the right goals that are actually in alignment with our long-term thriving and with the long-term thriving of all life on Earth. This is not the game of intelligence. Intelligence is like, okay, give me just like one goal, the one thing, like even in our business literature, like one of my favorite books back in the days was Gary Keller's The One Thing. Like, it's really tempting to just think of, okay, what's the one thing I can do in order to make my business fly? But reality is so much more complex than that. And our lazy brains that always look for shortcuts are really intrigued by the magic pill, by like the quick hack, by the one course that teaches us how to earn a lot of passive income. Like, we are oftentimes tempted to look for the one thing. But this led to the destruction of this planet. And if we as a species don't develop the wisdom to select the right goals and to optimize for multiple metrics, like building a business that earns us as founders a decent income in order to live a great life, and at the same time is a great workplace for our employees, and at the same time delivers astonishing value for our customers, not only now but into the future as well, and a business that is profitable for the investors who gave us their money and like took significant risk in order to help us start the business, and a business that is as well leading to the thriving of our partners, of like the whole ecosystem of players that are involved in it, and a business that doesn't put the burden on the biosphere but actually contributes to the thriving of the natural world, and a business that is optimizing too for the well-being of the next 7 generations. Like, this is wisdom. That's a completely elevated playing field. Through the narrow channel of intelligence, narrow focused goal achieving, it's impossible to think in these terms. Even to consider what might be important to solve such a conundrum of interlinked criteria is like, ugh. But this is wisdom. And this is what is needed. This is what Homo sapiens is invited to cultivate. If we don't develop the wisdom that binds our incredible intelligence, we can only go extinct, and with that cause the extinction of countless other species. Unbound intelligence can only lead to the destruction of everything. Okay, maybe you're asking yourself, why is Robert telling me all that? What does it have to do with cities and community villages? Cities are the epitome of intelligence, of narrow-focused goal achieving. Higher, faster, quicker, cheaper. Like, this is the game of the city. Even just like look at the skyline of New York City or Dubai or Tokyo or Singapore. Like, this is even like a parody of intelligence. And small interlinked community villages, in contrast, open ourselves up to the full orchestra of life. Small interlinked community villages, in contrast, are the perfect breeding ground to develop true wisdom. Because in small interlinked community villages, it's not possible to focus just on a single metric like earning money. Money is the driving force of the city. And everything gets squeezed to the channel of money. And in these small villages, we cannot ignore left and right. We cannot cause harm everywhere else and only dedicate everything to our narrow focused goal. Like, it wouldn't work. Like, everybody around us would reflect to us, hey, dude, you are like, you're not contributing. You're not contributing to the wholeness of existence, because everything is so interconnected, and we cannot, as we already explored, we cannot ignore where our waste goes. And if we took advantage of a person, we cannot like ignore that and start over with the next relationship and move to a different place where nobody knows us and where there's no trash yet and exploit there. It's not possible in small interlinked community villages. This is truly the breeding ground for wisdom. And that's why doing what we are doing, building Custodia, building the incubator for the more beautiful world, building a new paradigm living circumstance here in the center of Mama Bali, immersed in one of the most beautiful places on this planet, and bringing people together here in these small interconnected settings, for me is one of the most potent responses to the meta crisis. Because true wisdom can be cultivated here, which is almost impossible in the city because of the anonymity, because of us not being in contact with the consequences of all our actions. shower and then gonna have an early night of sleep. I had such tremendously beautiful get-to-know calls for Custodia. I am beyond grateful for all the amazing people that will join us for this so important endeavor. If you feel the urge to participate, if you feel the urge to create, work, play, live, grow, co-create, explore, design together with us here in Bali in December ideally, that's the mission for the next 6 months, on our own piece of land, December 1st to December 22nd. Of course, there's a backup plan if we will not be able to have the first phase of development ready by then. Beautifully backup location, but we're gonna give everything we have at our disposal to make it possible to gather here in December. And there's a chance to work with us even before, in August in Poland. It's a German-speaking container. So if you feel the urge to participate in that and to join these amazing human beings that are dripping in, then you can fill out the application form. It's in the video description. Looking forward to read from you. And to build these highly interconnected community villages that are located immersed in nature, and that are a completely different living system compared to these cities that we built over the last 50, 100, 150 years, that are pretty good at perpetuating the meta crisis, that are pretty good at developing the narrow-focused intelligence, that are pretty good at isolating us from each other, but that are not very good at developing the wisdom necessary to steer humanity into this next phase. So, yeah, this is the question, the big question of our times. Are we continuing the growth-based paradigm, and are we continuing it by living in cities that are the epitome of this growth-based paradigm? Or are we making the switch towards more community-oriented, nature-oriented, trust-oriented, abundance-oriented ways of living? And in order to do that, we need to change the living settings we inhabit. This concludes today's exploration. Looking forward to hear from you and to see you tomorrow. Bye bye.